Hey, how you doing, everybody? This is Ric Savage with another installment of my Selfie-Stick history series. I am standing here on one of the most hallowed spots in American history. I am standing in a place where thousands of Americans died in one long, bloody day. I am standing in the sunken road, or the bloody lane, at Antietam, the Battle of Sharpsburg, September 17th, 1862. If you can look behind me, I am standing in what is now known as Bloody Lane, or what was then known as the Sunken Road. Thousands of Union and Confederate soldiers died here and in the fields around me. I'm going to give you a panoramic view of the battlefield, which is kept almost exactly as it was during that fateful conflict back during the Civil War. The battle was Robert E. Lee, Confederate commander of the Army of Northern Virginia, versus General George B. McClellan, the Little Mac, or the Young Napoleon, as he was called in the North. Definitely not by Lincoln or any of his cabinet. They were pretty much fed up with McClellan after the Peninsular Campaign, where Robert E. Lee had taken a much smaller army and embarrassed McClellan. Now you have McClellan with an advantage. He had recovered orders from Robert E. Lee, Special Order number 191. He had recovered it from one of his lieutenants out in a field, found this order wrapped around a couple of cigars, brought it to McClellan, and it outlined Lee's entire plan for what was to be his first invasion of the North. Lee realized taking the battle into Maryland and moving north was a way to take pressure off of Virginia and take pressure off the South and get the war out of his home state. So Lee invades the North. He has about 40,000 men. His army is really not at full strength. A lot of Confederates actually walked away, did not want to invade. They had enlisted to fight for their homeland, not to invade another. So some of the Southerners did not. And Lee had been fighting many campaigns since he had taken over back in June and had lost a lot of troops. So his army was not at full capacity. So they clash here. Lee is backed up against the river and he stands his ground. A lot of people said he shouldn't have done this. They thought that was a big mistake, but Lee stood his ground against much superior numbers. And he had the Potomac River to his back. If the Union troops would have broken Lee's line, that would have been it. Robert E. Lee's army would have been defeated and the Civil War would have been over. But this part of the Civil War, the Antietam campaign, it was simultaneous. The Confederates were advancing on all fronts. They were advancing in Kentucky, they were advancing in Virginia, they were advancing out west. The South was on offense. You talk about Gettysburg being the turning point of the Civil War. I disagree. I believe the true turning point of the Civil War was here at Antietam. Gettysburg, it ended up being more like a big hope spot for the South. But the Civil War really effectively turned right here. Over 22,000 soldiers killed, wounded, and missing in one single day. This is the largest day of death in American history. It's compared, obviously, now to Pearl Harbor. It's also compared to 9/11. But no other day, nearly 8,000 Americans, both Union and Confederate, would die in these fields all around me. In one day in which the soldiers said it seemed like the clocks ran backwards because the sunset would never come and end the violence. There were attacks in Farmer Miller's cornfield. There were attacks here in the Bloody Lane. There were attacks at the Dunkard Church. The battle swarmed in several different phases, morning, afternoon, and evening. And in the evening, when it looked like Lee's army was beaten, General A.P. Hill came up from Harper's Ferry and broke the last Union charge, ending the battle. Lee stayed on the battlefield on the 18th, as did the Union troops. But Lee withdrew first, which in the Civil War is a tactical defeat. Lincoln used the Battle of Antietam as a way to put institute his new Emancipation Proclamation, a political gesture offering to free the slaves in Southern held territory in order to keep the British and the French from intervening on the side of the Confederacy. So thank you, folks. Now you've been here because you know where you are, I am, and where I am, you are, and here we all are together at Antietam. This is Ric Savage, Selfie-Stick History. Boom, baby!